last excerpt? What do
Sure.
you think? Okay. And this is from the third book in the trilogy.
And now we are in, I got to see what year we're in. Now we're in 1990. So the baby that Rosanna had in 1920 is now 70. And he is married, and he's been with the same woman since he was in college at Iowa State. And her name is Andy. So this is from her point of view. She's from Decorah. So she was raised in a very Nordic household. Andy didn't like waking up facing the clock because she didn't want to know what time it was. For example, now when it was 1:59. 1:59 was too early, and as far as she could remember, she'd had no dreams, so maybe no REM sleep. Then even though she was careful not to move and did not roll over, she could still see the clock. Frank's arms went around her and he kissed the back of her neck. She said, "I didn't mean to wake you." I was awake. I was watching the snow. There's enough of a moon that it sparkles. Frank didn't draw the curtains. His vision was still sharp, and he could make out constellations and passing satellites. Andy turned over. Frank was solid and warm, even though the room was cold. Now that they were sleeping together every night, she'd had to buy lighter bedclothes and a mattress firm enough to support the weight of both of them in one spot. He slipped his hand around the small of her back and pulled her toward him. She put her leg over his. Frank ran his hand down her thigh and rested it, then jiggled himself so that they were even closer. Andy kissed him on the lips, but it wasn't going to lead to lovemaking. A pleasure of being 70 was that comfort seemed more appealing than passion. In the last year, he had won her. He had come to Sleeping Beauty and kissed her again and again. And each time she had awakened another degree, sloughed off another layer of skepticism. It was a surprisingly painful process. In all the stories, the prince went away, sometimes for 10 years, sometimes for 100 years. All the princess had to do was mind her own business, and that was what Andy had been doing for 35 years now. Sometimes her business had been trivial. Sometimes her business had been misguided. Sometimes her business had been useful and informative. And quite often, she had been helped in her business by people who did and did not know they were helping her. But Frank, the prince, had been on the scene the whole time, and so she had put on a layer every time he grimaced, every time he left the room, every time he rolled his eyes, every time he looked around the restaurant or the theater or the parking lot or the airport, as if he were searching for someone known or unknown who might save him from the troublemaking boys, the clingy girl, the unloved wife.